So I watched the Trump rally. Hi there. Welcome back to Tarot by Janine. How's everybody doing? So I watched the Trump rally Sunday. I watched it really closely, but I really noticed some interesting things this time. I tried to really watch and listen with my third eye. Like I tried to be intuitive about it instead of literally taking, because his words that he says sometimes, a lot of it sometimes doesn't make a lot of sense. Just the way he uses certain phrases, I think he's talking in code. And of course, lots of people say that. And so I'm not even close to the first one that would have noticed that. But I'm just noticing for myself, and I'm trying to understand it for myself. And I'm going to share what I get. And of course, we're going to do some readings. So I'll just go through the things I noticed, and then we'll talk about what questions we're going to ask. So the numbers he repeats. So he has this way of repeating numbers. And it's interesting because they don't always seem factual, the numbers that he says. I mean, they may be, but sometimes they seem either exaggerated or he's using the number for some reason. Okay, so he repeated the number 7 in lots of different ways. So Saturday night, he was in Selma. It was on the 9th of April, 2022, and he repeats the number 7. He says 70,000, 700,000. He says those numbers a couple of times. He repeated the number 417, 417. He repeated that. He talked about how that was what I believe he was saying Zuckerberg paid into the 2020 shenanigans in November 2020. So he uses that number again. 417. So that's interesting. And then he says 778 million. He says that a couple times. And he was talking about Ted Budd. So he's always endorsing people, of course, right? So that's the whole reason for the rallies, apparently, is endorsing these people. There's like some kind of election, middle of the term election thing coming up. So he endorses these people, and he was endorsing Ted Budd, and he was talking about how Ted Budd is 17 points ahead and how proud he was. He was 17 points in the polls ahead. Says the word 17 a couple of times in reference to how far ahead this Ted Budd is in the polls. Okay, so that was interesting. And then he does these weird half sentences where he throws in these phrases that kind of they make him sound like he's going off over here. But it sounds like a code to me, or maybe he's sending out coded messages to people with these phrases. Okay, so he says, randomly, he says, I want to buy it. He actually just says that in the middle of a sentence. Okay. And then he says, I broke Elvis Presley's record. So that was interesting. Just in the middle of a sentence somewhere, he says that. And then he mentions these things. He mentions that they are so close to having a man land on Mars. They're really close. He talks about that. It's actually the second time I've heard him talk about that. And then he talked about how, this is the first time I've ever heard him say this, but maybe I just missed it the other times. I'm sure you'll chime in if I've just missed it. But the first time I ever heard him talk about United States, how he built up a powerful nuclear capacity, right? That was the first time I'd ever heard about it. And he was talking about how confident they were and how the nuclear capabilities were so old and out of date until he got a hold of them and then he built them up. So that was interesting. He also mentions the tyrants we are fighting do not stand a chance. That was sort of a sentence in the middle. So just really interesting. And he's getting harder and harder on the tyrants, right? So it's really interesting. His language is getting more and more intense every rally, talking about greatness quite a bit, and that the United States is currently a laughingstock all over the world. Then he gets really adamant about dropping. So as soon as they get reinstated or whatever, as soon as they're back in the White House, they're going to drop the mandates, he says, forever. Okay, so I think that's a code for we're going to out that this thing was planned long ago. It wasn't what they said it was. So they're going to drop them forever. Okay, that was interesting. And he mentions that they're never going to force people to not make their own decisions, their own medical decisions for their health. So he gets really, really firm about things like that. Now that's interesting because he used to talk about and even kind of endorse it somewhat. And a lot of people were up in arms about that. But what we got around that, every time we looked at it, it looked like he was gauging where people were with that. It might have been code for something else. We got that as well. But we also got, he was gauging the reaction. And obviously he stepped completely away from that. And he talks like that will never be brought up in history again. So that's interesting. He's very, very conclusive about that. Another thing that he does that's kind of interesting, I find, and he's very repetitive with this, he repeats and repeats, and he usually starts off with all about the border. So the border issues, his border wall that he didn't finish. Now, he repeats the word illegal aliens, and I'm wondering if he means real off-worlders. I'm wondering if that's code for something, or is he literally just really obsessed with making a secure border, which, and I'm not disagreeing, and you know what I mean? It seems to be a really big deal for him. But I got a feeling he's talking about something else. And maybe that border wall is a code too, because why would he be so obsessed with building the border wall? I got a feeling there's something going on there with that border wall. So we're going to look at what really does the word border wall mean. Is it actually an instrument of some kind? Like, is there a technology in the border wall that, maybe we don't know about, but we're going to need it in the future? What's going on with the border wall? So we're going to look around that. We're also going to ask, was that really him? It seemed like it was. It seemed like the same Mr. T that we saw in the last rally. Why did he endorse Dr. Oz? Why on earth did he endorse Dr. Oz? So right out of the blue, so he endorses all of these people and they're all political, okay? And they're like obviously Republicans, and that's what the rallies are about, endorsing up and coming peoples. Okay, but then out of the blue, he endorses Dr. Oz. Okay, Dr. Oz was promoted, as far as I know, by Oprah. I didn't think he was that good of a person as far as like could have been involved in the dark cult. But let's have a look at why did he do that? Was there some kind of message to somebody with that Dr. Oz endorsement? That was just weird. So let's see, we're going to ask, was it really Trump? Why does he always talk about the border situation and use the word illegal aliens? Does he mean something else? Is the wall a symbol for something? So we're going to ask all around that. Why did Mr. T endorse Dr. Oz right out of the blue? And let's channel a message from a Mr. T at the end here. We'll channel a message and just say, hey, what did we miss here? What are you trying to tell us in this last rally? We'll just get it straight from his own higher self. Okay, so let's start with, was that really Mr. T? Well, isn't that interesting? I got an ace around it, so I'm going to say it was him. But I think he was slightly less, it's almost like he was feeling, I wouldn't go under the weather with that 10 of wands in the middle, but I'd say he was a little bit over, like he must have had a really tough week or something, because this feels like he was really pushing it to be there. And something happened before that was a heartfelt something. He might have heard about the loss of somebody or had a gut punch of some kind before he went on. So I feel like he wasn't as ramped up as usual. Now that's interesting because he did a pretty good job, I thought, when I was listening to him. I mean, he really rallied, but my cards are saying he was pretty tired and he was considering not actually, like maybe having his replacement do it, but at the last minute, it looks like he went on. Okay, we've got that ace there. I think he went on at the last minute, but I feel like it was a bit of a push for him. He had something go down that looks like it might have been, he heard some bad news or something, and it might have been a little hard on him. He had a message of some kind that was a little bit of a gut punch to him. And so it was hard for him. He was actually really pushing it to do that rally. Now let's look at, why does Trump always talk about the border wall? That's a huge, is it just one of his big agendas that he sticks to? Or is there something else going on with that phrase, illegal aliens? Does he mean they're actually stopping off-worlders, the bad kind? Like, are we going to find this out later that really that's meant something else all along? Let's have a look, because, we'll look at the wall situation too, because he really talks a lot about how it's only going to be a couple more weeks till they finish the wall once they only had 3 more weeks left on it or something like that. It's kind of funny. And, why would he bring that up every single rally? He's either obsessed with his wall for real. I don't know that. I think there's a sneaky calm in there. I think he's talking about something else, but let's have a look. I don't know about off-worlder things. I think he really literally is thinking they really need good boundaries. He's really thinking a lot of the trouble, and in particular around crimes against 12 and unders, we'll just say it like that, very youthful people, okay? And then maybe possibly trafficking of people 12 and under, okay? I think he's absolutely making a comment to how that's got to stop. Okay, so he's being very adamant about stopping that kind of activity. So when he talks about the border, keeping the border safe, getting that wall built, et cetera, he's talking about stopping cross the border, movement of 12 and unders illegally. We'll say it like that. Okay, so he's not even talking about all the other crimes. He's specifically making a comment about the things that are done to 12 and under humans. And in particular, how that activity goes on at the border. So I guess we're going to hear all about that when everything gets revealed. Okay, and a lot of people already know a lot of details about that. Yeah, so that is a big agenda of his. So I don't think this is talking about off-worlders, at least not when he talks about the border. Yeah, no, it's very specific that wall was going to protect and or stop that kind of movement, we'll say. Now, let's look at this Dr. Oz situation. So why on earth did he call out and or endorse, right out of the blue, Dr. Oz? Okay, because I don't know. That guy seems as slimy as... I got no love for Dr. Oz myself, but that's just my personal opinion. Does he really like him? Or was there something else going on there? Was that a code for something? Okay, that was a code, you guys. That wasn't about Dr. Oz at all. That was a comment towards how disappointed he's preparing us. We're going to be really disappointed in a lot of people that we saw them as good people. We saw them as reputable people just because they're really famous and known. No, they must be good. Okay, I think it's going to be the opposite. It doesn't look like he was actually literally meaning he's endorsing him. He's making some kind of comment about him, and maybe very specific people would have known exactly what he was talking about. I think this person we're calling Dr. Oz got rounded up. Even the name could even be, he might even be saying Dr. Oz, but he actually means somebody else. So this is really interesting. And this wasn't for the general public's ears. This was for somebody else's ears who would have been listening. So that was all coded. That was a code. Now, let's have a look. Let's do a channeling. Let's channel, because you can channel even when somebody's with us. If they say no, it'll be obvious in the cards. It's all the conversation will be shut down. But if they're open, if their higher self's open, let's channel a message from Mr. T and just see what does he want to say that maybe we didn't get in the rallies. Let's have a look. We've got the Queen of Wands here. She's about truth and integrity, but also has a good sense of humor. And we've got the Nine of Cups here. So vision and wishes coming true, and, good things coming, good things on the horizon. Like, this is a great card, but it's about things we've wished for. So if I was to guess, anybody watching, a decode of a Trump rally is likely somebody who's wishing he'd step back on the platform and be more like, if he's shadow governing, could he please come more out in the public? Could we, it seems to me he's saying things are going to get more clarified and the truth will come out. What we've been wishing for will happen. Okay. Surrender to, just the timing. Like they kind of wish it. I almost think March would have been a time they wanted this to happen, but it's going to happen anyway. It looks like it's happening anyway. Okay, so we had to surrender to timing. Okay, we've got this patience card here. Everything revolves around these different things happening. Of course, we've been, I've been talking about that for quite some time. A lot of people talk about that on these kind of channels. Times keep getting moved. It's very frustrating for people. But this feels like he's saying the things we know are true. What we wish for is coming. We need to surrender to things have to go in their proper timing, because of one thing has to happen, then the other. With this card here, it's all about a season. So it says, something has to grow to fruition. So some of the things they put out there have to be just perfectly ready to pluck, shall we say, timing wise, right before they can pull it off. Okay, so that everything has to fall into place, but it's all happening. It's all coming. Our truth will be available to us. What we wish for and visualize is coming. So the cloak will be lifted for us. Yes, it's been disappointing. Okay, I guess he's kind of saying, sorry, it's been disappointing. Right? But this will come around. We will be told the truth about everything. And he's also saying this is the most unique thing that's ever happened in the history of humanity. Yeah, you bet. Okay. And I also get, he's saying we're working on the mainstream media. So they're working on, in a very unique way, they're shifting the mainstream media and taking it over. That's what that feels like. So I feel like that'll be a really big part of this shift. I mean, obviously the biggest thing that would really help the normies get the word, like everybody to really understand the situation, the mainstream media needs to change their tune. And that's what this feels like it might be saying, is that in a really unique way, because this card's really unique, we're coming at it possibly from somewhere outside the U.S. I don't know what that means exactly. Maybe, a situation outside the U.S. is going to really shine a light on mainstream media and what it's been up to. That's what that feels like. We're going to get a light shone from a different angle in a very unique way. They will out the mainstream media. Thank you, Mr. T, for sharing that information with us. And thank you so much for watching my video. And do like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye-bye. Hi there. Welcome back to Tarot by Janine. How's everybody doing? So I watched the Trump